I wanted to go to the Katsucon Identity 5 meetup, and in order to challenge myself, I created a Nightwatch cosplay. Here's how I did it. For the first time in my cosplay career, I went to Home Depot. I am not a prop maker, but I was dead set on making Nightwatch's scythe detachable so I could actually bring it in the car. I was thinking about doing some sort of screw mechanism. I went and grabbed 2 wooden poles from Joann's, some dye for the cloak, and some yarn so that I could make the fur. Everything else I mostly had, so now I was ready to start this project. Let's begin with the prop. First, I made a hole in one of the wooden sticks I bought. This wasn't really that hard because I used my Dremel, but it was a lot more challenging to screw into it, so I had to enlist the help of my partner. Even with his help, I was still having a lot of trouble getting this to work. So I went and found some other screws I had, and this seemed to work better, but it still wasn't working efficiently. We tried several things. A lot of them didn't work, but I found this screw that I had for a Renji cosplay I was doing. It's a long story, but it's working better than what we bought. So we're actually going to end up using hot glue. So when in doubt, use hot glue. When in doubt, do not use hot glue because this did not work at all. Yeah, we saw a TikTok tutorial where you could just screw into hot glue, but I wouldn't advise. So we just ended up turning it over and making a hole on the other side of the pole. With a little bit more screwing around, we finally got it to work. Time to paint. Well, the first time we're going to paint for this project because we got a lot to do. And this was pretty simple. All I did was mix up some brown and painted each one of the wooden sticks. Also, I realized at this point I have not introduced myself, so hi, I'm Blue, the cosplayer known as Blue Clarice. And now we are going to work on the axe part of Nightwatch's prop. Okay, y'all need to see this because this piece of styrofoam is huge. This styrofoam is bigger than me. And no, I don't need all of it. Honestly, I only need a little, but I just thought it was funny, so I wanted to show y'all. Basically, I'm just sketching out the shape of his axe. I'm using the pole kind of as a guide for size. I'll be honest, I overshot and made it a little bit too big, which is usually my problem when I'm making props. Next, I'm going to use a box cutter to cut out the shape. Now, I made a big mistake here. I did not think about how messy styrofoam is, so I would recommend not doing this on carpet. My carpet was absolutely filled with little pieces of styrofoam for the next 3 to 5 business days. So if you don't want to have to struggle to clean that up, just do it on like a wooden floor. Now here comes the part where a lot of prop makers and armor people are gonna get pissed at me because I sprayed my axe with Plasti Dip. For those of you like me who don't know that much about prop making, Plasti Dip interacts with styrofoam. So it basically just melted the styrofoam. And I posted this in my story, and yeah, a lot of people were like, hey, you know, you should not do that. But on the bright side, I will say I actually really like the texture that this created. The thing about Nightwatch's axe, it's covered with a lot of fabric, but it does look kind of rough and stuff. So it ended up working out and I didn't have to start over. Anyways, now that we have our melty styrofoam, we're going to paint it, which honestly took a while and it needs so many coats. I did start with a blue coat and then layered darker colors on top of it. I was just running low on paint, so I was just doing what I could, but I ended up being pretty happy. Now I'm coming back in with a gray color just to add some highlights. I think it helps give the axe some depth. Honestly, it's not entirely important because we're about to cover it with fabric for the most part anyway, but you know, we love the little details here. Anyways, we will set this aside to dry, and now I will work on the lantern part of his axe. So I got this really cool lantern that is actually from the thrift store. We got it a few years ago for my partner's Halloween costume. And the cool part about this is it has lights. So this is the first lights I've been using in a cosplay in a hot minute. Honestly, this already looks like Nightwatch's lantern, but I think I can take out these glass pieces and spoiler alert, I actually can't do that. So, I'm actually just gonna have to paint the outside, which isn't ideal, but this is not meant to be a perfect project. It's just meant to be fun. I had to do multiple layers of diluted acrylic paint to get the diffused look I wanted. I didn't want you to see the candle, but I still wanted you to see the light. Once the last layer of yellow was dry, I used black paint to make an X on each of the rectangle pieces, because if you look at his axe, he has that. This was a little tricky because the paint was starting to rub off, so I had to do some of the sides twice. Then I just added a scrap of fabric and I was done. I really love the color changing effect. But let's get to the next part. So here I'm grabbing 4 bottle caps because this is what we're going to use to make that little piece at the end of the axe handle. All I'm doing is hot gluing these caps to a piece of foam. Next, I just use my box cutter to make a few little ragged details because it's Identity 5. Everything's kind of toe up. I don't think I have the videos of the paint because something happened to some of the videos. So we're going to skip to the part where I cover the axe with fabric. I just cut this kind of crappy looking white fabric I had in strips. And I also just like kind of did a light wash of black dye. And I tried to make it super uneven because I want this to look pretty dirty. Like I said, Identity 5. They all look like they're run through the mud, besides like Bloody Queen and Geisha. Anyways, we're just going to wrap this around the axe. I wanted some of the axe to show, but not too much of it shows. I just use hot glue to secure this into place. You guessed it, we have to use more screws. But that wasn't actually the problem. I needed to attach the axe to the pole, and I decided to use screws to do that, partially because he actually has screws on his axe, and partially because I needed something to like stick into the axe. The problem here is that the axe is made out of styrofoam, so it still was kind of falling apart, so I wasn't able to successfully secure it. But I secured it enough that it did not break at any point when I was actually wearing this cosplay, which was great. Lastly, I need to attach the lantern, which I just used some leftover yarn from another project that you guys will be seeing in my next video to attach it to the axe. And I think I am done. The prop is basically done, but like, where am I supposed to put this camera? Because this thing is so big. I always make my props way too big for some reason, but I think it kind of works. I mean, he is a hunter after all, but this looks really good. All I have to do is add the snow, but I think I'm about to move on to another aspect of the cosplay, so let's get to it. I'm really tired today. I finished the prop last night, which is great. But I honestly don't know what to work on now. I'm actually working on like 3 cosplays at once, but I think I'm gonna grind out Night Watch because that should be the easiest one for me to finish. So I'm thinking about moving on to the hoodie. For this hoodie, we are going to be using an old curtain I bought many years ago to make some gyro from part 7 of JoJo pants. Well, yep, never got around to that. Anyways, I'm just cutting it apart because I don't want to use all of it since there's a lot of it. Anyways, I have some RIT dye that I'm going to use to dye it. I don't think it's quite enough, but I didn't feel like going out or spending more money. So we're just doing the standard dyeing of hot water. And oh, there's a whole lot of drama with this because my sister accidentally took my pot that I dye stuff in, but thankfully she hadn't eaten from it. That sure was an experience. But I did dye the fabric. Actually, this is not a horrible color. I honestly want it a bit more blue, but I might paint it, or I'm gonna go and grab some more dye tomorrow, but I'm gonna start to cut out the pieces to see if I have enough fabric and just see how it's looking before I decide what I'm gonna do. Here, I'm just using a hood that I like as the pattern for my hood. It helps a lot to have something as a basis to go off of. I did know that I want this hood to fit a little bit bigger, so I kind of factored that in. Now let me talk about the perks of using a curtain. There are really nice finished edges on a curtain, so if you place your pattern strategically, you won't have to finish the edges. They'll already have a really nice hem. This fabric also was pretty interesting because the inside was kind of nice and silky, so I didn't even need a liner or anything. Once I was done with the hood, I was trying to drape the rest of the kind of cloak part on myself to figure out how I wanted it to lay. It's a little weird because it's actually attached to one of his gloves. I was really just winging it for this. Once I pinned out the approximate pattern, I started to just cut that shape out of the fabric. Unfortunately here, I was going to have to do some sort of finishing on the end myself. But to be honest, you don't even have to do that because it's really ragged. So it's better if it doesn't look perfect. And trust me, my hem did not look perfect, but that was kind of part of the plan. All right, so let's take a break from making the larger part of the hoodie. I want to work on the ears, and I will say I do have a bit of a weakness for Catboy's. I just love big fluffy ears, and I know his ears aren't that fluffy, but we're going to be using foam. So my current idea is that we're going to kind of take the foam and fold it like this. Now, do I remember what I did here? No, I really was just struggling for my life because foam ain't really my thing. But the best that I can tell you is that I was just trying to make the basic shape of his ears. I decided to make each ear a little bit different because it just felt right. And I'm basically just covering the foam with the fabric, and then I'm kind of sewing around it. All right, so I'm trying on the hood, and I know the ears are lopsided and they're kind of droopy, but they're just pinned down. I'm going to try to sew them and get them to stand up more, kind of like that. So here's me sewing one ear together before I actually sew it to the hood. This was tricky and annoying because sewing through foam and multiple layer of fabric is not fun. But even with just sewing it down, it was not strong enough. So what I ended up having to do was to take a piece of foam to balance the ears on. I basically kind of created this little scalp thing out of foam, and I used some pins, yes, just regular pins, to stick through the foam in the ear, which I glued securely in the foam and the fabric. And this is how I got them to stick upright. There might be a better way to do this, but this was the easiest way I could think of at the time. Of course, before we can finish out this hood, I had to do some details of messy stitches just for fun. Well, these weren't entirely just for fun. Actually, this helped me secure the foam scalp piece to the hood. Now I'm finishing up the cloak. I'm pressing it to do a messy rolled hem, and then I am just sewing along that to finish the hem. Yes, I am watching some Identity 5 gameplay as I sew because, well, it helps me be inspired. Y'all, look at the hood. I was so happy at this moment because I was like, the ears are standing up, the cloak was looking accurate. Yay! However, the hoodie is not finished. And now I'm going to take a chapter from my sister's book and crochet. I am not the best crocheter, but I can do single crochet stitch and this weird stitch that apparently isn't a crochet stitch, but we'll talk about that in another video. Anyways, you're probably wondering why I'm crocheting in the first place, but it's so I can make some fur. Once I finish crocheting a triangle, I am using a carding brush to brush out that crochet. This is a really cheap and easy way to make fur, so I highly recommend. So when I finished this up, I made sure to paint a little bit of detail on the hood. I needed to, have the snow effect. And if you look at his hood closely, he has some white, some dark blue, just kind of making it look messy. You don't really have to be precise with this. So let's start on the second hardest part of this project for me, the mask. An important thing to mention is that the eyes are made out of old cheesecloth. I used it in my Bakugo cosplay back in the day, and it's actually perfect to be able to see through, but also then people can't see your eyes. This is basically just a video of me marking out where the mouth is, and then I'm going to use foam clay to just give it that rough texture and also help with shaping. I did this on a mannequin head to help get the curved shape of a head. Also, you can kind of see it here, but I'll show you better later. I have attached this mask to glasses because y'all, I cannot see, but I can paint, and that's what I did. I did a base layer of just white paint before going back over with gray paint. Honestly, I had so many coats because at first I thought it was too light, then it was too dark. I also took a thinner black brush and went and did some details like the mouth. I also was not happy with the shape of the mask, so I cut it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was not super happy with this, but here is a shot of what it looks like on the inside. With the mask finished, I want to talk a little bit about the vest. So I thrifted this vest a while ago. It actually wasn't hard. There were several vests that looked like this. It also would have been really cool to do some quilting techniques, but anyways, here's the belts. So we're almost at the point of putting everything together. Look at the belts. I would recommend, sorry, this air is getting in my mouth. What I was gonna say before my hair so rudely got in my mouth is that I recommend you buy your belts from the thrift store. One of them is, the other two I kind of had to make and it was annoying. We're gonna be using the classic cosplayer method of buying gloves and gluing some sharp nails on it. This always looks really good, so I recommend just doing something like this. Nightwatch is weird and only one of the gloves is attached to his cloak, so I'm sewing that on here. So I know if you got this far in the video, you're a real one. So I would appreciate it if you would give me a like. It helps me know that y'all enjoy this video and also encourages me to make more of these long haul crafting videos, so thank you. But now, finally, we're at the last part, and that's adding the snow. I also thrifted these boots. They're actually super crappy, but that works well. And I'm putting fake snow on them. I mixed up some Mod Podge and fake snow and just kind of like tossed it on these boots. I was actually surprised how realistic this looked because my sister was like, "How did you get snow on your boots? I thought it melted a few days ago." And I was like, magic. Anyways, once I finished putting up the snow, it's time to go to Katsucon. I look so cool, y'all. It was so nice to have a stress-free project where I didn't have to worry about having perfect craftsmanship and I could try all these new things. I'm actually pretty happy with the whole picture. It was really fun. My friends Riptide Cosplay, the Eveling Cosplay, and UFO Joyride hosted the Identity 5 meetup, and it was so much fun as always. Always way bigger than I ever imagined, and there were so many cool cosplayers. Seriously, I was fangirling so much behind my mask, and there was quite a few hunters. We had a Bloody Queen and Alva, and of course me as Nightwatch. For those of you who aren't familiar with cosplay meetups, usually we go character by character and take pictures. Everyone dressed like that character goes up front, and there were actually 3 night watches, which was super fun. And at some point I actually remembered to turn on my freaking lantern because I forgot that was a thing. I also accidentally screamed in these people's face because Andrew went up and I was trying to cheer him on and they were like, "I like your cosplay," and then I just started screaming and it was really awkward. Anyways, let's not talk about that. I also got to hang out with my friend Amish Moth, and she gave me a cute Valentine. And someone gave me this really cool Nightwatch bracelet. Like, what are the odds? It was so cool. And look at these cosplayers. Anyways, that's gonna be all. If you like this video, check out this crafting video next.